Welcome to Spooky Month on Based on a Book, the podcast that will be bringing you supernatural creatures, serial killers, witches, and more. I'm your host, Crystal. Yes, I'm a daywalker, but I definitely don't sparkle.
I'm Keri, and unfortunately for Crystal, I'll be making plenty of Twilight references today, even though she literally just made one.
And I'm Lindsey, and I read folklore like it's my profession.
If you haven't figured it out, this episode is going to discuss vampires. I thought it would be a good topic because despite the constant Twilight references over the last year, we haven't yet covered a vampire episode. So, here we are. There are so many books and movies across decades, technically millennia, and the folklore is even more interesting. The debate rages on over social media about what is or isn't a vampire and what vampires are or are not capable of. In this episode, we will not determine whether or not a vampire with a warrant can enter your home without an invitation, but we will hopefully tell you something you didn't know before. Part of what makes vampires so hard to define is that there are so many different cultural vampire origins that inspired authors and screenwriters all over the world. I'm going to rely a bit on my co-host for this part because there's no way I've seen or read all the vampire movies, shows, books, or bands out there, but the three of us together probably can vouch for a chunk. Most of our listeners, and even Keri and Lindsey, Keri just told me ahead of time, pretty familiar with the medieval Southeastern Europe, Transylvania style vampires. Reanimated corpses of the undead that suck the blood of the living, usually returning to their homes or communities to seek revenge or generally cause chaos. Think The Lost Boys, Dracula. Lindsey, help me out. Transylvania style, Count Orloff,
Mm-hmm.
Nosferatu.
I was going to say Nosferatu.
There you go.
Salem's Lot, Dusk Till Dawn.
There you go. Yeah, traditional, we're going to suck your blood vampires out at night. But there are tons of other vampiric creatures from across folklore that show up in our pop culture too. One of my favorites comes from West Africa. The Sasa Bonsam has iron teeth, lives in the trees, attacking anyone who enters their forest, similar to the Baba Yaga of Slavic yore, who also has iron teeth and eats children. Does this sound familiar, Keri?
Yes. My Throne of Glass by Iron Teeth Witches.
Yes. The yellow legs, witches in particular, really remind me of the Baba Yaga. When I read that the first time in Throne of Glass series, I was like, I know this one. I know this one. But
yeah.
Of course, they were completely different in a lot of other ways. So.
Which I think is super interesting. You know, I think about it with Fae in general. Just, I mean, the most familiar, my first introduction to Fae, the Fae that we read a lot in romantasy now, they have sharp teeth, and some of them do bite, and
Right.
sometimes suck blood, similar to vampires. They have a lot of vampire qualities to them.
Yeah.
As well.
Vampire is very much a category, more so than a specific, I think, in a lot of folklore. Whereas in media, when you say vampire, you think of a very specific type
like
of
a creature
fae,
versus a species or something.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
In ancient Greece, they have their own tale of vampirism back to Homer's The Odyssey, where the undead are too weak to speak with Odysseus without drinking blood, so he sacrifices a ram to quench their thirst. This is one of the first written references to the undead's need for blood, and suggests that it doesn't have to be human blood to sustain them. I hate to say it, but I think that was my next Twilight reference. I got you covered, Keri. But Also think in Interview with a Vampire, where they survive on rats for a bit in hiding.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens a few times. But there are also the vampires that have the super serious sex appeal. The Bavanchi from the Scottish Highlands is a succubus like creature that's beauty is said to be impossible to resist, and they are weak in sunlight. They don't die, apparently, but there's different versions of that tale. Or, and I'm going to massacre this pronunciation, but I think it's Ludwig in northern Hungary. That's a satanic lover posing in human form as a dead lover to seduce his female victims, but must disappear by the crowing of the rooster at dawn. So, sex appeal is definitely a thing that was going on with vampires and vampire like creatures for a pretty long time. Probably
Mm-hmm.
not Count Orlov, kind of no thank you. But
Yeah.
maybe some of these other vampires.
Yeah,
Just
I
saying.
feel like I'm not familiar, like I'm very basic knowledge
Hmm.
of vampire folklore. And I think it's just so interesting in media. Like we kind of like I talked about this, touched on this with you guys earlier, that whenever there is so many jumps between hot and scary, like sexy and scary vampires
Hmm.
in like over the course from like 1800s to now.
Right.
Like whether we're scared of vampires or we want to be seduced by these vampires. Whether it's, like folklore or in the media. And it's like, especially, I mean, whenever we had Dracula, like that was scary vampire, right?
Right.
Super scary. And even Nosferatu, that's really scary vampire. And then you get into like the 80s, you get sexy and scary vampires.
Hmm.
And then you get to 90s, 2000s, we're getting sexy romance vampires all over the
Hmm.
place. So I think that's interesting that I mean, I didn't know if folklore also included like seductive vampires as well.
Girl, you love Buffy and you didn't know about like the succubus and the incubus.
Well, I do know about a succubus, but
It's a type of vampire.
yeah, true.
It's shocking to me how many vampire like creatures there are. Now, if we narrow it down to only sucking blood by biting the neck, it definitely narrows the list a bit, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of draining your blood and life force creatures out there.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of like a succubus falling into that category.
See, and I feel like there's such a differentiation between like the folklore style vampires versus those that we see portrayed in media. Because in media, they focus a lot more on differentiating the different types of creatures. Like, if you are not blood sucking vampire, then we're going to call you something else, which is fair and legitimate. But I feel like they all still kind of fall under that vampire umbrella, you know? We see a lot of the turning of the coin from just straight, scary, horrific, grotesque vampires into the sex appeal or the romanticized vampires right about the time tuberculosis suddenly became sexy too. You know, John Hank's brother, John, right?
Mhm.
Covers that in Everything is Tuberculosis, how
Mhm.
like tuberculosis chic was actually a thing. In New England, there were a lot of areas that blamed tuberculosis deaths on vampires. They thought that, these were the dead coming back to feast on their live families. But
Yeah, like wasn't it always like they were like always associate or they would be associated with like disease or something.
exactly, and a lot of that goes back to not necessarily knowing what germs were. you know?
Yeah.
So they wanted to blame their dead family members coming back to life to kill them rather than just, we should probably wash our hands and, basic personal hygiene would have
Mhm.
helped. But, far be it from me to tell anybody what to do. But it is, when you look at all of the folklore and the stories handed down through all these different cultures and traditions, it's really easy to see how writers all over the world have drawn inspiration from these tales. Some of the first published vampire literature was in poems in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Lots of poems. Lord Byron wrote poems. This guy who I found called John William Polidori, which I think is a hilarious name, wrote a short story that was published in 1819. But really, what shaped our view as a society of vampires today was Varney the Vampire. It was a series of serials, the Penny Dreadful type publications, weekly publications from 1845 to 1847. That is the first reference to vampires with fangs, with pointed teeth. One of the first references to vampires sleeping in their coffins. Whereas a lot of vampire folklore is vampires coming out of their coffins, the dead rising from their coffins and then returning to them during the day. They return to them in their grave. But Varney the Vampire had a coffin he kept at home. When we start seeing more of those references, that's when suddenly we start getting capes on in our depictions of Dracula, and it really becomes more of a what we see in media even now, that classic quote unquote vampire image. And that brings us to the 1900s, where we start really sliding into movies and media exploding with almost generational, almost every 10 years, these cycles of vampires becoming popular again. Of
Yeah.
course, we had Nosferatu, the original black and white. I can't remember what year that was exactly. 1922.
I was gonna say
Um,
1920s.
we have, and then the 1930s, we have Bela Lugosi's Dracula that everybody knows.
I love Bela Lugosi's Dracula. That's my
Honestly,
favorite.
I was talking to my mom, and I know I asked you guys to talk to your parents or people with like a 10-year age gap to see what they said was their favorite or key vampire stuff. And my mom said Bela Lugosi. I didn't expect her to say that. I don't know what I expected her to say. I don't know. I thought maybe the Munsters, because Grandpa Munster was a vampire, but I don't know. Or maybe even Count Chocula, like the Count from Sesame Street. But she was all like, no, Bela Lugosi. I was like, okay, get it, girl. What did your parents say, you guys?
My dad loved The Lost Boys. That's his favorite. My
That's one of my faves.
cry little sister. Every single time. That's all I play. They just play that song
That
on a
song
loop.
over
On a
and over and
loop
over.
in that movie.
Yeah.
20 times. I don't think they have any other song in the entire soundtrack. They
I feel
probably
like
do. I'm
that
just being
movie
dramatic, but
was
still.
right. I feel like that movie in particular was on cable on repeat through the late 80s, early 90s, nonstop. I
Yeah.
probably nonstop. It was just the rerun
Oh,
that
yeah.
we all saw 1,000 times.
I actually have I saw only bits and pieces of it and knew a lot about it, but then finally watched it actually from beginning to end for the first time last year. I knew the entire story because I've just I feel like I've seen every scene in it, but never actually watched it all the way through until last year.
I'm still certain to this day it's one of the reasons I don't like plain white rice.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
My mom, she loves Bram Stoker's Dracula. And then she also loves Twilight like me. Just because
Twilight
we were
transcends time,
yeah, we were
apparently.
both like reading Twilight at the same exact time, and we both went and saw it in theaters and all that stuff. So
That's
we love
cute.
it. And Buffy, she's the one who got me into Buffy when I was younger.
There you go. Lindsay, how about you? What did your fam say?
My mom doesn't do vampires or anything scary.
Aw, a girl after my own
No,
heart. I love it.
And my stepdad really likes like From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a
I
good one.
feel like there was a phase, I don't know, I want to say like early 90s ish, late 80s maybe, till the like year 2000, where every hot actor, like if you were a big name actor, you had to be in some sort of vampire movie, you know? So we
yeah,
had like George Clooney's Dust Till Dawn, which is one of my favorites too. It's crazy dumb, but so good. And of course, Interview with a Vampire with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. That's still top tier, even though I didn't enjoy the book. I don't care what anybody says. My daughter really was like, Vampire Diaries. She was like,
I love
everybody loved
vampires.
Vampire Diaries. And she's like, but I've still never seen a single episode. I was like, well, maybe that's the next thing we do together. Who
I
knows?
really love Vampire Diaries. That's like one of my personal
I've still
favorites.
never seen it. Then she says, are they based on a book? I was like, baby, it's in the title.
Yep,
She was like,
yep.
oh, she had her moment. And my son, who is 6 now, loves Hotel Transylvania.
Hmm.
There's 4 of them, in case anybody wondered. How did that happen?
I don't know. I
Right?
actually have never seen any of them.
Right? It's, to me, it's one of those, it's like, they're good. The first one was good. I enjoyed it. The second one was like, okay, yeah, I get it. The first one was really cute. They're going to have to make a second. I get it. I've not seen the third or the fourth. I don't feel a need to,
Yeah.
but
I feel like a big for my generation, I feel, or at least in my experience, I won't say for my generation because I also was watching Buffy and I don't think that was necessarily my generation, but something that was I was very involved in watching and everything.
mhm,
And a big theme during like 90s, early 2000s in these vampire stories in media
mhm,
is this unrequited romance between the vampire and the human or something, or like this forbidden love, and also like the seduction from a vampire where they also have like this eternal youth and they're just like I don't know. It's just, like, weird. It's, like I noticed that when I was, like, looking through all these, ones that I was obsessed with, I was like, "Wow, they all have the same exact theme." They literally all have the same exact theme, and they're all doing the same thing, and the reason why I love each of them is for the same reason, and it's not just because of my personal taste of what I love, it's what's pulling the viewer into it. Like,
right.
Vampire Diaries, Twilight, Buffy, you know, it's even Underworld is, like,
Yeah.
one of my favorites. There's, like, a forbidden relationship or something that's happening in all of these
Mhm.
movies that are pulling you into it, like some romantic element, and that's, like, a big theme that was happening in a lot of these vampire
Well, when we
movies.
start getting into like the vampires versus werewolves and
Mhm.
the lichens thing, and that turns into the Romeo and Juliet of the supernatural world,
Mhm. Yeah.
For me, it was Laurel K. Hamilton's Anita Blake series because the main character is a necromancer and the main vampire, he's like the head of one of the cities, and it's really an odd combination.
I have to ask you, in the wait, hold on, let me check my game before I want to make sure I'm not going to mess something up. Okay. In the Dresden Files, which is a series that I really love, the vampires are in different courts, right? You have like the red court and the black court and the white court. Do they have that in Anita Blake at all?
It is very similar to a court system, but there are vampires that are heads over certain cities.
Okay.
So there is a hierarchy.
I found like, to me it was a little, I don't want to say weird, but like to have them like in like different courts have different properties, like different types of vampires, like more succubus style or more, I don't know, something else. So it was very, I don't know, interesting, because you see that in Interview with the Vampire, you see that in Twilight, that they're ruled by some sort of almost type royalty type structure, a family that rules all vampires or whatever, or you see some sort of governing body a lot. I always thought that was really interesting. We didn't see that in a lot of the earlier media. We don't see that in the folklore at all. That is very much a new thing being entered into what will become the folklore, because that's what folklore is, it's the lore of the folk. It's what we make it. And so we're seeing this changing, the stories of what vampires are and how they act and what they're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as much as I hate to say it, legit, there are people, human beings alive right now that don't know that sparkling vampires is a joke.
Yep, it's true.
I'm afraid of that.
Well, like, I just think about all the different things of, like, what some stories say that vampires are capable of, or what they say that they're unable to do.
Mhm.
I think it's really interesting. And another one that kind of has, like, that same type of, like, almost like government system within, like, their own different species is also, like, Discovery of Witches. And
Right.
they also have that forbidden, like, romance element
Mhm.
in it because they're across different species of, because it's a romance between a vampire and a witch, which is, like, in this world is a big no-no,
Right.
which
And
is,
again,
like, very interesting.
and this is where I think that, in a lot of stories, a lot of media, we see vampires represented in the same way that the Fae is represented, in having like Seelie Fae versus Unseelie Fae, or
Yeah.
Spring Court, or like in ACOTAR, where we have Night Court and Day Court and Fall Court and Spring Court, and so you have these different structures, governing structures
Mhm.
of the Fae, and you see those crossing over into the vampire media as well. I think that's pretty interesting.
And something I totally kind of, like, completely forgot about because a lot of the movies or TV shows that I've watched with vampires, they don't usually have this as part of their abilities, is shape-shifting.
Hmm.
And I forgot that that's honestly, like, with a lot of older movies for vampires, I mean, shape-shifting into, like, a bat, that was, like, usually a big thing, and that's not a usually very common in a lot of stuff now, but that's a big Fae thing.
It's a big fae thing, and it's a big folklore thing.
Yeah.
Most vampire or vampiric creatures could fly somehow, whether they transformed into a bat, some into a moth, some into fireflies. In Africa, they transformed into fireflies, which, if I'm ever going to be an undead creature, I pick that one. How cool would that be?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of variations of these vampires shape-shifting, and that's something that we're seeing go away.
Yeah.
Also, immortality. We, although it's a little implied in some folklore, it's never specifically stated that any of these creatures are immortal.
Mhm.
That's something that we see only in media. So I think it's pretty cool too.
That is pretty cool.
What are some of your favorite current vampire shows? I mean,
I
obviously
mean,
in Twilight.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's my favorite, It's just like nostalgic to me. My current favorite right now, like I said before, is Discovery of Witches. Like that is peak, and I will continue to tell everyone to watch it and read it. If you haven't watched and read it,
Okay.
go freaking do that because it's so, so good. It's so good. I feel like people don't talk about this enough.
Lindsay,
You
how
gotta
about
go
you?
do that.
My current favorite show, which just ended, is What We Do in the Shadows.
I'm so glad you brought that up because funny vampires, I don't want to say it's new. It's new in the last like 25 to 30 years. We don't see comedy very much in vampires, but like that's top notch. That's, we started seeing it with Buffy, a little bit of that, I don't know how to put it, that irreverence, that Buffy had towards the Valley Girl, even the Buffy movie, even that whole Valley Girl
Mhm.
situation. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up because that's, to me, one of the biggest pushers of vampires into comedy.
I mean, you really see it as early as like 1948 with Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Right, and you even saw it with Varney the vampire a little bit in the serials. You see it a little bit, but it's really kind of a very rare, but like it doesn't become the big mainstream the way What We Do in the Shadows did. Which and seriously, that's like peak comedy. That shit's hilarious. I
Oh,
love it.
that's absolute peak comedy.
It really is. I think one of my favorites right now, it's not current, but I'm starting to like Buffy. I never watched it when it came out. My family was not big on having television on all the time. We didn't have cable anyways. We lived out in the sticks, so we didn't get a lot of, channels or anything, and it just wasn't that big of a deal to me. Um Keri convinced me to give it a go, and at first I was like, this is shit. But
Yeah. I'm rewatching it, and I was like laughing, thinking of somebody watching it for the first time, and I was thinking of you.
but you have to settle into it. You know what I mean? You have to, even like, I'm trying to remember of like where I was in my life at the time these came out, and it's, I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of settling into the groove of it a little more, and I'm really enjoying myself, and I'm glad that you convinced me to give it a go.
Yay! And then you'll be ready for the new one that's gonna come out.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
Yay.
They're gonna make a new one with the new Slayer and everything. But she's involved in the project, which is really great. Sarah Michelle Gellar, so that's gonna be cool.
I know, I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, I love that she's involved with it because I don't know how I would feel if she wasn't.
Right? Well, you guys, that brings us to my game.
We love
I'm
the game.
this one's gonna be short, I think, because
Okay.
it was hard. I didn't realize quite how hard these were to put together. I have a newfound respect for Lindsay's Stephen King game. That damn girl, you must have spent forever on that. I'm impressed with you.
Thank you. I had to come up with stories that I didn't think were real. So
And and they were so good.
They really were.
So this game is called Vampire or Blank. I'll fill in the blank, but then I'll describe the trait of a supernatural creature, and Lindsay and Keri will have to guess if it belongs to a vampire or the other creature. Do you think, does that make sense?
Yep.
I hope. Okay.
Yep.
So the first one is it vampires or lichens that can't cross running water?
I'm going vampires.
I was gonna say, I think this is vampires.
It is vampires, but Keri, can you think of anything else that can't cross running water? From Akatar, maybe?
That can't cross running water from
And is
Akatar?
tempted by a chicken and can answer any question that you ask it? The cereal.
The cereal?
Cereal, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was like,
I'm just kidding.
"What?" Wait, but what is the cereal?
We don't freaking know. I don't even think Sarah J. Maas knows, but
Yeah, like, honestly, what is the cereal?
I was going to say a spirit can't cross.
lots of things can't cross. That's the thing that makes vampires so hard to define, is their characteristics are a lot, and traits
Well, what
are
I know
similar to a
from,
lot of
like,
others.
Romanian mythology, from what literally and this is like basic, is that, and so don't comfort me now, okay? Is that they were originally known as spirits
Yes, a lot of
that like
vampire
rise
lore
from the
is
grave.
is spirits or ghosts or demons possessing a
Yeah.
body or
And they were
Or-
known as like, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong. Like Striga or something?
Mhm. Yep,
I think that's how
Striga.
you say it.
There's like 18,000 different pronunciations for that one word. So, but yeah,
You mean
Striga.
you mean the character in Akatar?
I know, I was thinking that.
What do you know?
Yeah.
Speaking of Akatar, next
Cereal.
question is vampires or witches, which can be killed by an ash stake through the heart?
I'm assuming both, because I'm
Yeah, I
pretty
was
sure
gonna
you can
say
kill almost
both.
anything.
Legit, there's a lot of stuff that kills vampires that would kill literally anything. So,
Yeah, I feel like it's both.
I
I
mean,
mean,
for sure it's
honestly,
both.
I'm pretty sure any creature is gonna die with something through the heart.
But
Most, I'm gonna
specifically
say most.
ash. But
Oh,
Yeah.
specifically ash.
I'm gonna say this is ash from which tree?
I'm
is this
done.
Akatar again? Because of the Fae?
Legit, it's an Akatar reference. I'm starting to think that Sarah J. Maas went down the wiki hole that I went down and wrote a story. But this is vampires, and it's from Russian and Baltic lore. But in other cultures, they prefer different types of wood. So, really depends on which culture we're going with. But specifically, ash in some of the original Baltic vampire lore.
Interesting.
Okay, so question number 3, vampires or fae can't touch iron.
Oh, Faye.
It's fae. However, the Romani people did use iron needles through the heart and other various organs to help ensure that bodies would not turn into vampires.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was kind of interesting. Vampires or werewolves, the condition is hereditary or genetic.
Werewolves.
Werewolves.
Yes, but also kind of a trick question because a male vampire can impregnate a human female and create daywalkers. And then in the Slavic folklore, when that happens, the babies born also have special powers and can like see and track other vampires, which is where we get the movie Blade.
I was gonna say Blade or Renesmee.
Renesmee.
Not Renesmee.
Look
Oh,
at
geez.
Lindsay with the Twilight reference.
I'm getting flashbacks to that crazy looking CGI baby. Okay.
For real. All right, question number
Wait.
5.
Lindsay, insert Renesmee right here
Got it.
on the YouTube video.
Yeah. Well, question number 5, vampire or troll?
Troll.
Yeah. I had to come up with a lot of various creatures for these questions.
Okay.
Are we talking bridge troll or like ogre troll? Which
Like
troll?
ogre troll.
Okay.
Okay.
Sparkles in the sunlight.
Neither. I'm just kidding.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella.
Vampire.
It's sure.
You're like, actually, it's a troll.
Trolls are ogres are killed by sunlight. So I thought that those two would go together, but no, it's
Ogres are
fine,
like
it's vampires.
onions.
They really are. Okay. Vampires or pixies live in hives.
Vampires.
Vampires. I'm going vampires.
Technically both. I'm pretty sure pixies do, but in the movie Dusk Till Dawn, we're in a hive.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, I can't remember. Oh, couldn't read it because it's a really weird word. Vampires or chupacabra can shapeshift.
Vampires.
Vampires. We already discussed this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were gonna say sucks the blood of goats.
Both.
Both.
vampires or rodents of unusual size. Sleep in swamps.
I mean, a vampire could sleep in
Yeah.
a swamp.
Is it dark in there?
It's the fire swamp, so no.
If you've ever
Okay.
read Charlene Harris, the Sookie Stackhouse series, they're in Louisiana. There's swamps there. I'm
Are
sure.
they? I really need to read those books. I really need to in my giant list. Well, that's it. I didn't tell anybody's scores. That was the game, folks.
Love it.
Did a great job, right?
Yeah, you
That
did.
was what it's really hard because legitimately I probably could have said that vampires are all of those things because there's so many different folklore variations of vampires. So
Mhm. But, I mean, I'm sure everyone could probably argue, well, they do this, and then they do this.
yeah. And again,
Yeah.
that's why at the very beginning of this episode, for those of you who skipped over and didn't listen, we're not giving you a definitive vampire description here because I don't think there really is one.
Mhm.
And if that hurts your feelings, I apologize. That was not my intent. But also, maybe, I don't know. That's just on you.
Yeah. I think, like, I honestly sit here and think, like, a vampire is probably one of, like, the top of, like, the food chain type of creature.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like, they have very limited weaknesses. I mean, depending on what you're talking about, though.
Right.
Like, if you're talking about, like, I'm thinking, like, Buffy vampires, you can't go outside during the daylight.
Right.
You know, you've got some holy water and some crucifixes will take you out immediately.
Have you guys ever
Garlic.
noticed that, like, the things that kill vampires or ward off vampires are the same things that we would use for somebody who is sick or had an infection?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like garlic, sunlight, holy water is supposedly a purification thing. That was an old cure for a lot of things, you know.
Mhm.
I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah. And, well, I think whenever I was, doing a little bit of research, I was associating it with never, vampires being associated with the spread of, like, disease and stuff.
Mhm.
And then that was their way of protecting themselves.
Absolutely.
So, I think that's
Absolutely.
interesting. For
There
sure.
you go. Well, guys, I think that wraps up our vampire episode. Stay tuned for the rest of Spooky Month as we cover all the things that go bump in the night. For our full schedule of episodes, check out our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. And if you want to read along, check out the affiliate link in our bio for Libro FM, the online audio bookseller that supports local bookstores. Until next week, keep the garlic on the door, the holy water handy, and don't invite any strangers inside. We'll see you on the next chapter of Based on a Book. Bye!
Bye.